I think no, we're more in a way where when we speak to potential partners or games that we could integrate, it's more like how do we work all together to achieve and show to the world the benefits of playing, for example, Web3 games. So I don't see each other as competitors. I more see each other as a partner. That can be games, can be community, can be guilds, can be even a stack of technology that is beneficial for our product. But I usually see all the people that we speak to as something complementary that brings us stronger together. He did a bit the same. He was a corporate guy, and he said, okay, I'm gonna stop that and start my own company in crypto. I'm gonna withdraw all my money and invest everything in crypto. I was like, wow, you are taking.
Sounds familiar.
You are taking.
One of the things from the beginning was that really we thought about was, let's say for example we've got 1,000 assets, right, in a particular game. Ultimately, the whole secondary ownership, the whole immutability of minting an asset onto the blockchain as an NFT, it's an unbelievable innovation. But how do you enable people in developing countries and in countries where they may not have the money to buy these assets up front? How do you enable those people to play? Right? And that's the underlying thesis of Polemos is non-collateralized lending is a very difficult thing to do. And we've been able to achieve that. So great to be here today. We've got Charlie and Miguel from the Crypto Mindset. And we've now got our CEO, Carl Wilgenbus. So Carl, great to have you.
Great to be here.
So what I wanted to do today, Carl, was basically to sort of drill in a little bit about you, right? We've seen, there's been a whole bunch of different pivots and sort of a lot of stuff going on with inside Polemos. But I think one of the things that I took away from Permissionless was that every time we drilled into an interview with you, people took a step back and went, wow, that's what he did. So maybe if I can start by just asking you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where's the accent from? Where do you live?
So hi guys, I'm originally from France, as you might feel from my accent. I started my career in digital and consulting back then in Switzerland and Spain. I did spend around 4 to 5 years over there. I work for a fast-growing, middle-sized, very independent consulting company named Amaris, where I did spend 2 years in Switzerland and Spain. Then I moved on to a middle-sized consulting company in Switzerland that we did structure and sold to a French group. So I did spend around 6 years in Europe, and I felt like I wanted to get out of my comfort zone and discover a new culture. So I moved straight to Singapore.
Wow.
And in Singapore,
and that was all the way from France?
That was all the way from Switzerland.
Oh,
yeah,
from Switzerland.
Yeah,
right.
actually.
Okay.
I was between Geneva and Lausanne on the French part of Switzerland, and I just spent a few years there. That was pretty cool, but I really wanted to discover a new culture. That's the French part of Switzerland. It's pretty easy over there.
So was there a specific reason why you just felt like you've just kind of maxed out there a little bit in terms of your career there, or?
Yeah, I felt like I really need to. It's a different country, but it's the same language, so it was pretty easy for me. And I felt like, okay, after spending almost 2 years in Spain, which is kind of more different, and at least you have to learn a new language, right? And I felt like I want to discover a new culture, maybe get myself more outside of my comfort zone. And then I did travel to Singapore 10 years ago, and I felt that was a great place to be. And I said, okay, let's try. Let's go there and see how things are and what the life would bring to me.
And what did you end up doing there when you got there?
So I spent a couple of weeks to see if it was the right spot for me, and I felt very comfortable. Then I started to move one luggage, two luggage, eventually all my stuff. And I did meet a guy at Publicis, and that's where when I started my career in Singapore as finance director. And after a couple of years, I got a great opportunity as a CFO at Dentsu, which is these two companies are in the top 5 of the digital and advertising industry. And
globally, right?
Yeah. So did you say Publicis? So you were finance director for Publicis?
Exactly.
I mean, they're massive, are they not?
Yeah, Singapore, it's around 800 people. They manage all the Asia and Pacific. And they work for huge brands like Coke, like McDonald's,
Got it.
like P&G. It was very, very interesting job there. Many clients to serve.
And like, what did you kind of learn both about the culture in terms of Singapore itself, but then also, I guess, because you're saying that you wanted to learn the culture,
Yeah.
in terms of like the work culture of like a giant, massive
Yeah.
global organization.
Yeah, it was, to be very transparent at the beginning, it was a bit difficult because I felt like I thought I was used to work internationally, but in fact, I've been a couple of years in Spain and a couple of years in Switzerland, and the culture is not that different compared to France.
Okay.
But I moved to Singapore. I thought that I was ready for it. I could say, okay, I'm a guy that works internationally. It's going to be fine. But come on, Southeast Asia is such a different culture compared to Europe. So I got myself a bit trouble at the beginning, thinking I could bring my way of working and it's going to be fine. But no, you have to listen to see how people work, to understand the way they process things, and it took me a while.
Okay.
Right.
And what would you say, I mean, what's the biggest difference, or, what was the biggest sort of, what's the biggest difference between Southeast Asian and European culture at work?
I think especially in France you tend to, you work to eat, but you tend to spend much of your time as you can with your family.
And whereas Dentsu, on the other hand,
And we always say that in summer in France, nothing happens at work because people either take
Right.
July or August as a leave. So in summer, everything is not moving, it's stuck around.
Yep.
In Asia, it's really fast pace. Things move all the time, day and night, weekend, and it's kind of way more intense and much faster. So you need to get on the train and get used to that speed.
So it's sort of product first, family second.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. And so stepping into Dentsu from Publicis. I mean, Publicis is an 800-pound gorilla.
Yeah.
I mean, Dentsu is even bigger, right? Are they not?
Dentsu is actually quite smaller.
Okay.
But they have a great presence in Asia and the US as well. They were back then, I think, around 500 people in Singapore, so still quite big. So it's same the entire Asia region. Working for this advertising company have many brands. They do a lot of acquisitions over the years. So I was managing a team of 50 people over there, with I think more than 15 brands across media, creative, and digital. So it's actually a company in a company. It's very big.
right.
So how did you handle kind of like when you guys absorb another company? Kind of like obviously it's kind of advertising and everything like that. The Cowboys, like this team versus that team in terms of creative. Like how did you handle that? Because obviously I know there's going to be someone's got to have to be the lead of a project.
It's very interesting because in this company you meet a lot of very different profile. You have some very techie people, very digital oriented. You have the media ones that manage, I don't know, millions of transactions per day, and they're really quantitative people. And then you have the creative ones, where they're here working all day to find great ideas for the clients. So they are completely different, completely different profile, and most of the time they're coming from different countries as well. So when you work in an agency, you also get the opportunity to work from people from all over the world. Whereas you'd be in Switzerland, in France, or in Singapore, usually the team is quite diversified.
Gotcha.
I think maybe that's a good segue into how we ended up having you here now with that amazing jumper on. Right?
That man sounds quite unusual, but as I mentioned, at the beginning of my career, I was working in a middle-sized, very independent, fast-growing companies. I was having multiple hats at the same time, and I consider myself a builder. Even though my career has been part of my life in finance, I did actually do quite a lot of things outside finance. And I like to build, and that's something I felt like when you work in a big corporate, you have many other things that you do that great, but I felt like I was not really building anymore. I was managing.
Right.
And
Get stuck in
then
management.
After 15 years in this area, a bit less, because I started in middle-sized one, I felt like I want to go back.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to meet Kevin and the co-founders of Polemos. And I mean,
Did that come up through any of your clients that you're working with at that company, or did you meet like through like your experience, like you're figuring out crypto, or like how did that
I was
go?
figuring out. I have a good couple of friends that created their own company in crypto.
Oh, okay.
So even though I was not that close, I've never been that far neither.
And that's the first way you got introduced to crypto, was through your friends?
Yeah, that was through my friends, and I was following their project.
Did you think it was crazier at the beginning, or what did you think about crypto?
In fact, when I was back in Switzerland, I took over a position of a friend that did create his own company in crypto. And back then, that was a little bit crazy to me. I think we were in 2015, 14,
That is pretty early.
And he was. He did a bit the same. He was a corporate guy, and he said, "Okay, I'm gonna stop that and start my own company in crypto. I'm gonna withdraw all my money and invest everything in crypto." I was like, "Wow, you are taking
Sounds familiar.
you are taking a lot of risk." But it's very successful. He went in at the right time, so I really envy him now. But
how's it going for him?
it's very good. He created his own company. This name is Request Finance. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but they are also based in Singapore, so we meet quite often. And
Nice.
And I've been close to him and a few other projects, and that's how everything started.
So I remember when you first joined, you came through, I think, a recruiter,
Exactly.
and we were advertising for the role of CFO.
Yeah.
At Polemos, I remember we scaled so fast in terms of the team that we had people working, I think, in 16 countries.
Yeah.
We had, superannuation things going on where we, in certain countries they call it sham contracting, where you're supposed to, if you've got enough people in each country, you need to be basically doing all the awards and the wages. But for crypto businesses, when they scale so quickly, right, all of a sudden you've got to try and learn the superannuation of like 16 countries. So when you first got into the interview, I mean, what were your thoughts? And did you look at this and say, wow, this is going to be a challenge? Or did you think it was just going to be a walk in the park? I
felt like this is super exciting, but we will have to structure the company in the right way. I always say that the worst thing we want is to be successful, but to discover that we don't have the right structure. So since the beginning, when I started at Polemos back in October 22, I was very much focusing on getting things right on the corporate side, making sure that Polemos has the right setup to grow at the full scale and full speed.
And where do you think like the ultimate goal is to get to for Polemos? Or like you have like a first checkpoint that you're trying to get to before looking out further?
I think we did pivot quite a few times. I think we finally, a few months ago, found the right spot, and we're gonna stick to it and accelerate on the development of our product. And we're gonna bring a few more people over the next months to really accelerate on, and we're gonna speak about that, I believe. But bringing more games and more chains and partners into our ecosystem. We're currently around 20 people, mainly based in Asia, but still a bit distributed all over the world. But we are at the right time. We need to accelerate and get the product right, and I think it's the right time to hit it on the market.
Okay.
And I think what I'm seeing, interesting to coming back to right at the beginning, you were saying the shift from European work to Asian work and Asian work culture. I'm seeing now that you've stepped up from CFO inside the business to CEO.
Yeah.
And now what I'm seeing as one of the co-founders is I'm seeing you really sort of centralizing the team more towards Asia.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Why is that?
I felt, to be honest, that there's different vision, but I felt like when you have a manager based on Switzerland that is managing a team where one of these teams is based in in Europe, the other one in US, and maybe someone else in Asia, how do you work together? How do you bring everyone on a call, on a workshop, spend a few hours to make sure that your goal line moving at full speed? It's very challenging. So we change. We move a bit away from that, and we created what I call regional departments. So we try to have one department in the right country in Europe, and make sure that people get the opportunity to work together, but also to meet from time to time. And as we are almost all on the same time zone now. It's much easier when you want to bring different departments working all together.
And so I'm seeing that you're scaling up the dev and the tech team in Vietnam.
Yeah.
The guys and the team that we've got there now, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that and how that's sort of transitioning.
Yeah. So we did create this department a few months ago. We have around now 6 folks based in Vietnam in different cities. We have a few in Ho Chi Minh, Da Nang, and Hanoi, and they really, Vietnam is a great team. There are a lot of tech people over there, a lot of young people as well. Really keen to put a feet in the blockchain and in the tech world, and we're actually going to expand the team and recruiting a few more people over the next weeks to really accelerate, as I mentioned, on the development of the product.
And that's basically just streamline essentially, so you can concentrate in one area.
Yeah.
Right.
It's much easier when people can work together, can work in an office eventually. They speak the same language, they understand each other, and when they all work on development, say product, same side of the product, it makes things much faster. And we want to get there at the right time. We need to accelerate. As I mentioned, that's my word, accelerating. I'm gonna keep it. So it makes things way more efficient.
And how do you guys kind of look at how you're building the company along with like the growth and the volatility of crypto? Because we go on the 4-year cycles, we have some years which are great, and some years which are not, right? In crypto, and that kind of craziness of movement sometimes affects companies, or they don't know quite how to plan for that.
Yeah.
So how do you guys kind of approach that?
I think we're trying to be reasonable. We want the best product. We want to move at full speed, but eventually we don't want to burn too much. So we're trying to be reasonable. We're trying to get the best product, and having the best people in the team as well, and push and get the product right by being agile and reasonable on the way.
Right.
I think one of the things though for Polemos is that we've been subject to the cycles, right?
Yeah.
So we came out of the gates in 2020. We raised the pre-seed and then the seed round in sort of 2021. And then everything went from GameFi being the most amazing thing, and there was games pumping and people to zero.
Yeah.
Basically, we just fell smack bang into the bear market. And, even, the valuations and some of the different things that were happening at the time, we've now, as Polemos, we've waited, 21, 22, 23, 3 years, right? And really what we're starting to see now is only now you're starting to see the games and the projects that we are built to support starting to get some momentum back behind them. But we've certainly been drastically subject to the cycle.
Right.
But you guys have survived, right? And that's one of the biggest things, is because there's a lot of companies that don't make it through that portion.
Yeah, look, we've been very lucky to have great investors. We've been very lucky to have, I guess, some good stewardship at the front of the business. And I think, just like everyone else, I mean, I've been investing in crypto since 2015. One of the things I'll say, having co-founded Polemos, is that it's given me an entire new way of looking at investments, because it is hard, man. You're in the trenches, you're working at speed, and all of a sudden you've got something completely outside of your control, which is the public market, right? And you might have the best product, you might have everything ready to go, but then the market just dies, or you get a black swan event, and see you later. So we've been very lucky, very lucky.
Got it. Yeah, so I had a question for you, Kyle. So I guess from what was probably the most difficult thing going from you're moving to Singapore. Are you in Australia right now actually?
No, I'm still in Singapore.
Oh, so you're still in Singapore, yeah. So switching from you went from what you were doing previously to you're now in GameFi and crypto.
Yeah.
What was it just did it take you a while to learn crypto in general in terms of how to operate in it and stuff? Because I know you've been in it for a while now.
Yeah. I think there is two elements here. When I moved to Singapore, I had to take a step back.
Got it.
I had my career in Europe, in Switzerland, and people know me there. And when I arrived in Singapore, I was Nobody. That was just a new region for me. Nobody knows why I was there, why not to recruit me, and for what. So I had to understand that I need to take a step back and show them that I'm capable. So it's never easy in your career when you take a step back, because you always want to push things forward. But I did it, and I like it because it shows that in fact nothing is impossible. If you like something, if you want to be somewhere, if you want to live somewhere, or change your job, or change your industry, just do it. If you like it, if you are passionate about it, it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Not a problem. So the question more about GameFi. I was quite up to speed on the crypto world, but definitely not on the GameFi side. So that's something I had to learn, to be honest. That was pretty smooth, I believe, and we got there up to speed in a few months. Learn a few things on the way with the great team that we have in the organizations and the founders as well, and that's cool. The GameFi, I think, have a little bit changed in terms of industry from when I joined back in October 2022 and where it is right now. But as Kevin mentioned earlier, there is quite a lot of games now that gonna get released over the next months and in 2025. So we're definitely getting into it now.
Yeah, we kind of see like Off the Grid has been taken off recently, and we have a lot of other games coming around the corner. How do you see competition in the space versus like growth in the space? So like, for example, right, there might be sometimes a company's like, hey, we're direct competitors, I don't want you to win, we're going to beat your ass, right? Versus there's other times where, you know, an entire industry is so new that like literally one company's success can kind of domino effect into another's, right?
Yeah.
What kind of mixture of that do you see right now in GameFi, and kind of how do you see the growth of that over the next 1 year?
I think no, we're more in a way where when we speak to potential partners or games that we could integrate, it's more like how do we work all together to achieve and show to the world the benefits of playing, for example, Web3 games. So I don't see each other as competitors. I more see each other as a partner. That can be games, can be community, can be guilds, can be even a stack of technology that is beneficial for our product. But I usually see all the people that we speak to as something complementary that brings us stronger together. So we are currently speaking to quite a lot of games. We currently have one game available on our platform, which is Illuvium. We're in the middle of bringing Futureverse on Root Network, and we are speaking to a lot of other games. Ultimately, we want to be game and chain agnostic, and that's something where we definitely want to accelerate as well.
Right. And so are you playing the thing sort of like you want to do, like, let's just say like you get to the point where you got like 25 games, right? Are you just picking the top 25 games in crypto, or are you picking ones you see that there's like a market for like kind of that side of it?
At this stage, I will say it's a mix of both.
Okay.
A lot of games are still under development, so they're yet to have millions of players. But we do look at first of all, how the game look like. Is it fun to play with? How the market and how the players react to it. We look at a few metrics, the number of followers they have, how the dynamic is, and that's it. We speak to them as well. We see if there is a future in integrating them in our ecosystem, and that's how we move the path forward.
So I had one question, right? So obviously, you know, you take these games, you basically create like a platform for them to be able to rent out these assets. Is there a possibility for someone to actually buy that asset off the platform if they really wanted it?
That's one of the things we would like to build. So we spoke quite a lot recently and during Permissionless about the lending and borrowing, because that's the first functionality we are bringing into our ecosystem. But at the end of the day, we want the players to be able to perform any actions they want in relation to the game in the ecosystem.
Right.
So it's not only about lending and borrowing of assets, but there is many more services that we would like to bring in, such as being able to sell or buy assets on this really chain agnostic marketplace.
Right.
And we'd like people also to be able to manage their assets, so they can recruit, for example, player to manage the asset on their behalf. There is a lot of services and functionalities that we want like players to do in our ecosystem, so they don't have to navigate into the complexity of the blockchain technology and interfacing into different websites, which sometimes make them losing a bit the way they would like to be in, because we do believe that most of the players, when they come, they're here to play. They're here to have fun.
Yeah.
Right.
They don't want to navigate into the complexity of the blockchain or the crypto. Some are very passionate about it. They still want to, for example, have access to their wallet addresses to bring some crypto in the ecosystem. But some just want to come, play, put a bit of money, maybe with their credit cards, and enjoy the game.
Right.
They want to do it seamlessly in a few seconds, and that's what we're trying to achieve as well.
And that's something that I'm like super excited about with GameFi, is that they're going to start adding debit credit card system in there, because I think once someone signs into the Polemos wallet and is in the marketplace, they can just have a debit or credit card signed into there. Of course, crypto as well if they wanted to, and then be able to purchase from there. And that kind of onboard somebody who's like, who never used crypto, where like if they buy an asset, there's some spare change there. Well, I have some Ethereum now. Well, that's pretty cool. Or whatever, Arbitrum, whatever they end up using. But so I guess I'm guessing like one thing that really did impress me about what you guys have been doing is kind of basically figuring out each game, like a lot of companies kind of phone it in a little bit, like they're just putting anything they can on any website, right? Where you guys are really methodically picking these games out and actually understanding the I would say NFT sort of gaming portion of it, because if you did one little mess up, you could ruin it. Of like, it's. I think. I'm not sure. I think you had talked about this in the past and stuff about, if you had fused two assets together, if you borrowed an asset and then fused it, it could get locked away somehow or stolen, right? So you guys have like kind of put these like limits and stuff of like what you can do with everything. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Of course. So on top of that, we have our own technology, which is non-collateralized, and we do protect the asset completely in our ecosystem. So when you are an asset owner, the last thing you want is giving the opportunity to the one using your asset to be able, to mint it, to sell it, to destroy it, or just to change the characteristic of the asset. So when you come to your ecosystem, you stake your asset, and you have some players that comes to borrow it, or soon we will have our asset management functions where you will be able to recruit players and use your asset in the games on your behalf. The asset is completely secured. It moves to our wallet, which we call the Polemos wallet in our ecosystem, and there is only specific actions you can do in the games, and that protect the asset of being modified.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned as well, like a lot of these things might be kind of complex for people, right? Like if they've never been in crypto before, or they might kind of turn them off and stuff like that. So you guys basically are of a similar philosophy to us, which is there's a lot of people outside of crypto that need to come in, but they need to come in seamlessly and not really know that they're using the technology exactly. So like, how do you see that adoption wave coming in, and where do you guys see yourself in terms of bringing new people into the space? Because I think GameFi has a huge potential, but it's kind of like there's a lot of tinder kindling and fuel of the fire ready to set ablaze, but somebody's got to start it, right?
Look, I think one of the things from the beginning was that really we thought about was, let's say, for example, we've got 1,000 assets, right, in a particular game. Ultimately, the whole secondary ownership, the whole like immutability of minting an asset onto the blockchain as an NFT, it's an unbelievable innovation. But how do you enable people in developing countries and in countries where they may not have the money to buy these assets up front? How do you enable those people to play, right? And that's the underlying thesis of Polemos is non-collateralized lending is a very difficult thing to do, and we've been able to achieve that. But I think, so when you talk about onboarding the next wave of people into crypto, this is going to be there are billions of gamers, right? They literally talk about 30% of the world are gamers, right? Or at some point, maybe not all 3 billion, but so how do we get those people into crypto? Well, in our opinion, you need to give them the assets to be able to play, right? So by furnishing them with those assets where they don't have the money, right? Then we think that that's a really nice and unique way to say, let's use Illuvium as an example. When you come in, if you're an asset owner and you've spent a lot of money on Illuvium assets, then you want to give them to somebody and you want to make a yield from that utility, right? But let's say I'm somebody in Myanmar or Bangladesh or wherever it may be that wants to come in and play the game. I don't have $1,000 to buy the asset. So I want to be able to just come in, and as you were saying with the credit card, I want to be able to come in and say, hey, I want to try this game.
Yeah.
And maybe for $2 or $3, you can come into the game, you can play, and then next thing they're talking to other people. Right. And I think that's really where it sort of proliferates out into mass scale.
How long do you think that takes?
Look, I think first we need the games.
Right.
First we need the games, and I think we need a bit of a tailwind behind us, which we're starting to see now.
Yeah.
Illuvium's built 4 amazing games, right? But yet it's kind of a pretty rough market to be launching that into. So I think once we get the games, I think then you'll probably see over the next maybe 2 to 5 years, people really start to sort of move into this gaming sector. But there's a bit of a stigma at the moment around, blockchain gaming versus traditional gaming, right? Web2 gamers are saying, you can just pay to win, right? Whoever's got the most money can just win, and different, So I think we need to get over that first,
right?
And then I think 3 to 5 years, and we should be moving. Just got to survive that long.
Gotcha. And in terms of like challenges, what do you think are the biggest challenges for you guys within that time period, either within the company or maybe your individual roles as well?
I think we don't have a lot of doubts about where we want to be and how the market will be in the long term. We know it's going to get there. We know it's going to get big and successful. The most difficult probably element to identify is the timing.
Right.
When are you going to have the first game that have millions of players? It's hard to say. We know it's going to come soon, but exactly when, it's difficult to anticipate. And that's probably, from my point of view, one of the biggest challenge, because we want to make sure we get the product right at the right time. But meanwhile, we don't know what the first game with millions of players will come in.
Right. So you got to take a few shots.
Yeah.
What games do you guys kind of see around the corner that you're really liking personally yourselves, or that you're hearing kind of some good buzz about? Because like Off the Grid kind of just came in, and a lot of people are talking about it right now. But do you see anything else that's really interesting around the corner?
Look, I'm not as big a gamer as some of the rest of the team, but certainly we're hearing Aperon, Block Lords, and Shrapnel. Shrapnel, everybody's been talking about Shrapnel for a long time, and it's a first-person shooter. I know those acronyms now. First-person shooter. So I think certainly those 3 games are big movers in the space.
I personally love Block Lords. I don't know if you got a chance to play Age of Empire when you were younger.
Oh, yeah.
But I did play it quite a lot, and I feel there is some similarities in the game. It sounds like very, very beautiful games, and I'm can't wait to be able to play it. That's my top 1.
Okay. Yeah, because we were playing with Illuvium at the booth and everything, and it's just kind of interesting to see, like, finally these products getting into people's hands, people using them, and everything like that.
What do you think about them? Did you guys go in any? I think you guys were in one of the tournaments, right?
Yeah, I'm on the initial one. I did okay. I kind of just got in the middle, like something like 4th or 5th and stuff like that. So, but it was really fun because like I was learning and I was getting better and better, and I got good enough where they told me not to play in the cash money one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. It was like actually like what do you call it? It's complex yet simple. So it's like anybody can kind of come in and be like, okay, what's all this stuff, right? That's happening here on the screen, and then it's like, okay, like it's pretty within, I would say, like 20 minutes. You kind of like, okay, I understand this, and then you start having, once you understand it, right, you start having fun with it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, I mean, in terms of getting to know you, I think it's been, I have to say, from the founder's perspective, it's been a pleasure to have you within the business. Carl, you've been a godsend from both the finance perspective, but also from building the team. I know that the team and everybody that sort of reports to you thinks super highly of you and really appreciates what you do. So
thank you. Big
thank
thanks.
you very much.
Big thanks on behalf of Thanks for the founder. Thanks for the team. Thanks for all the support we're getting over the past months, and we still have a lot to build, but I think we are entering a very exciting moment with hopefully the launch of our token by the end of the year as well. So that's going to be amazing.